Hello everybody and welcome back to Creation Myths. Today we're going to do another quick way to defeat a common creationist argument, and this time we are talking about macroevolution. Creationists, of course, will often say they accept microevolution, which is to say they accept your basic change in allele frequencies over generations definition of evolution, but they reject macroevolution. So the first thing you should remind everyone when you run into this is the real definition of macroevolution, which is evolutionary change above the species level, which is to say speciation or a greater degree of evolutionary change. Virtually every creationist still accepts that speciation occurs. It's like an inherent part of most creation models, which means they accept that macroevolution occurs. Make that clear right off the bat. They don't dispute macroevolution according to the actual definition. No. They have their own special creationist definition of macroevolution, and that's what they reject. So that's the first thing. You're using the wrong definition. You don't reject macroevolution. You reject some macroevolution that you try to define as macroevolution as a whole, but when you push on that, it's really amorphous what actually counts and doesn't count, as we'll talk about. Now, once you establish the correct definition, just metaphorically, I want to be clear, metaphorically, beat the creationist over the head with directly observed examples of major evolutionary changes. You have a ton to pick from here. So I'm just going to give you 3 of my favorites, and all the papers I reference will be linked in the description. But there are so many good ones for this. So comment with your favorite example of observed macroevolution down below so that everyone can be treated to just the laundry list of examples that refute this particularly ridiculous creationist argument. So of my 3, first, you have the evolution of multicellularity from a unicellular ancestor. My favorite reference for this one is Heron et al. 2019, De Novo Origins of Multicellularity in Response to Predation, in which a unicellular green alga evolved persistent, obligate multicellularity. Creationists always mess this one up. I don't think I've ever seen a creationist accurately characterize the findings in this paper. They claim it's just persistent expression of the ancestral aggregation or clumping behavior. That's wrong, for reasons that are explained in the paper. The authors actually go out of their way to say this is an ancestral thing they do, this is a different ancestral thing they do, here's the new thing that we observed that is neither of those things. It's right there in the paper. Creationists never seem to read the whole paper. It's a new phenotype, and the important thing is that the cells in those multicellular organisms are clonal, right? It's a single cell, and it divides mitotically into the whole thing. It's not just aggregation of separate cells, and then that structure is maintained via an extracellular matrix. The cells are held together with an extracellular matrix. An ancestral state is, this is more detail than you need probably, but an ancestral state is that they divide, but the cell wall doesn't divide, so you have multiple cells within a cell wall. That's not the multicellularity that was observed in this paper. So again, this is a brand new multicellular phenotype in a unicellular green alga. But there are more options. You can also use Ratcliffe et al. 2015 Origins of Multicellular Evolvability in Snowflake Yeast, because it turns out that this, directly experimentally observing the evolution of multicellularity, that's been done more than once. So you've got right there, clear example of macroevolution, the directly observed experimental evolution of multicellularity. My second example, how about changing your reproductive mode? That seems like kind of a big deal. Seems like an important evolutionary transition. Turns out we can find lizard populations that are doing it right now, transitioning from egg laying to live birth, with the intermediate long egg retention state also observed. You can find a really granular explanation of this transition in Foster et al. 2020, Emergence of an Evolutionary Innovation, Gene Expression Differences Associated with the Transition Between Oviparity and Viviparity. That's a solid paper that really provides the nuts and bolts on this transition. But my absolute favorite example related to the egg-laying to live birth transition is the lizard that laid eggs and gave live birth in the same clutch, which is to say, in the same reproductive event, as documented in Laird et al. 2019, facultative oviparity in a viviparous skink, Cephos equalis. So definitely check that one out because, like, it's right there. Finally, one of my go-tos, how could I not mention photosynthetic animals? If animals becoming photosynthetic isn't macroevolution, I don't know what to tell you. Just straight up at that point, there's literally nothing I can say that the creationist will accept as macroevolution, if you won't accept that. And we have a bunch of examples of this. There are a whole bunch of different animals that are at various stages of seeming to transitioning from being a heterotroph, where you're eating your food, to a photoautotroph, where you're using organelles to capture energy from sunlight and undergo carbon fixation to generate your organic carbon. There's also probably where they would land due to energetics would probably be like a mixotrophic state where they could do both. And there's some green algae. They're not technically green algae, but they're sort of green algae that can do that. My favorite, and what I think is the best example of this, is an organism called Elysia chlorotica, because this marine gastropod has actually undergone nuclear gene transfer, which is to say, at least one gene from the photosynthetic organelle is expressed from the nuclear genome. And then that gene, that protein required for photosynthesis, is trafficked back to the chloroplast, its photosynthetic organelle. Right? So this isn't just what you call kleptoplasty, where it's eating the organelles and the organelles are kind of operating until they wear out. This is the predator organism, the marine gastropod, a type of mollusk that's actually using genes that it acquired from its algal food to maintain the photosynthetic capability for a longer period of time. This is the step in the path to true photoautotrophy. We have it. In an animal, it's right there. Are creationists going to claim it was created that way? Awesome. Thank you. You just admitted predation existed before the flood. Thank you, creationists. And also that creation occurred at the individual species level, so thank you again. Oh, you don't think that? Thank you for admitting that this trait evolved because this is the only mollusk with that gene. So either it was created separately or it evolved since creation. So let's talk about how creationists respond to this stuff. Generally, they'll say it's all just microevolution. And when they do that, you can, once again, thank them. That is the best thing they could say for someone trying to promote accurate science in the debate, aside from just conceding the point. Because if they say this is just microevolution, you say, great. This is all stuff we can directly observe. The evolution of multicellularity, new reproductive modes, even animals becoming photosynthetic. That's all just microevolution. Awesome. Thank you. And really lean into the incredulity here. Ham it up for the audience. You really think evolving multicellularity doesn't count as macroevolution? Animals becoming photosynthetic isn't macroevolution? Are you serious? Any reasonable person can see how completely unserious that is. So, really play it up. Make the creationist look not just wrong, but ridiculous. And then bring it back to a serious point. If I could accomplish all that stuff that we can directly observe with just microevolution, what do I need macroevolution for anyway? And that's the overarching point you want to make. It's something I talk about in my college classes when I teach this topic. Macroevolution is not a different kind of evolution. It's not a different set of processes. It's the same microevolutionary processes that cause changes in allele frequencies over generations, operating over longer periods of time. In reality, there is no distinction between the two. And by saying that all of these major evolutionary changes we just talked about are just microevolution, creationists are accidentally conceding the whole argument. Now, this is where I would normally end it and say thank you for watching, but that's not what we're going to do here, because here I'm going to show you two examples where I made this exact argument this exact way while talking to creationists. This first clip I'm going to show you was years and years ago in the early days of this channel, so I apologize for any terrible audio and or video quality you may encounter in the next few minutes. It was my very first encounter with Mr. Kent Hovind, and it was in a debate, the topic of which was macroevolution. So check that out.
Just to conclude, as I expected, nothing I said, all those direct observations, none of that stuff counted as macroevolution. But you know what? That is okay. Because Kent, we agree. You said before, of all those 6 types of evolution, microevolution we agree on. And if none of the stuff I said counts as macroevolution, if all that stuff is just microevolution, it's all just changes within kinds, then the last question I have is, what can't microevolution do? We see photosynthetic animals, we see multicellularity, we see a brand new type of green algae, new biochemistry. So if all that stuff is just microevolution, do we need macroevolution to explain extant biodiversity? I think the answer might be no. I think microevolution can do all of it according to what we've talked about tonight. So my point here is that you can debate the meaning of words. You can debate whether an observed thing counts as microevolution or macroevolution. But what you cannot debate is stuff you can observe with your own 2 eyes and watch it happen in front of you. And I'll leave it to the audience to decide, do the things that we've observed that I've described tonight, do those things count as macroevolution? Are those new kinds? It's up to you. I think they are. Thank you.
And I will say, for what it's worth, that after that debate, several creationists said they agree with Kent, but I won. And you know what? Just for fun, here's one of those clips for you. Enjoy.
Okay, basically, I can't give Ken the nod on this one because, I mean, although I agree with Ken on the same philosophy, but you have to make your argument. I don't think Ken made his argument. He didn't really, there was some things that he could have addressed that he didn't really address. And he really have to, you know, kind of change his style a little bit and add new content. You know, you just can't say, you know, of course, like I got faith in God, I got faith. I know evolution don't happen, but you just got to make your argument. I don't think Kent made his argument tonight.
All right. Chris Keith, you are up next, sir. What'd you think?
Is my mic working good tonight?
Yeah, you're coming through loud and clear, man.
Hey, good deal. I came in a little bit late there and caught the last maybe half hour. I kind of a little bit agree with T. Brown on that. I've watched hundreds of Kent's debates, and you know, he tries to keep it simple. You know, where somebody on a 3rd, 4th grade level can read, understand it. But I think he missed some opportunities. They're there at the end. He mentioned they were talking about convergent evolution. That's kind of a big problem in my eyes. I mean, if you look at like something like bioluminescence, it's supposedly evolved 50-something times. I think that would be something that that he could, go a little deeper into, as far as hitting some points that get a little more technical and put a little more pressure back on Dan. So as far as pressure wise, I think that Dan did a good job. He's pretty skilled so far at keeping it in his world. So he did a good job doing that. So that's about all I got to add.
This second example of using this approach that I just described is actually from this year, which is 2026, for those of you here from the future. This happened when some rando in my comments demanded the opportunity to embarrass me live on air, and I gave him all the rope he wanted. This bit was right at the end of our conversation, and it's exactly what I just talked about, so check it out.
Yeah, an existing virus.
Yeah,
right. Whatever.
Well, it's a new species of virus, to be clear. It's a new species of a virus.
Okay.
HIV was a new species.
But it's still a virus.
Oh, now we're doing it's still a virus. Great. Now we get to talk about photosynthetic animals.
See, you're skipping.
Have you ever heard of the
avoid,
photosynthetic animals?
You're trying to avoid dealing with the mechanism. You cannot come up with a mechanism that finds the correct proteins, and you can't find a paper that says it.
All right, we've already had this conversation 3 times tonight, so we're not going to do that again. If anybody wants to hear the mechanisms, you could just go back to one of the other 3 times we did it. But I want to just end with this.
You
will wrap
listed
up
four generic things, and you never explained how they could do it.
I wanna end with this because you just said it's still.
See, now you're running, just like with
No,
Hovind.
I already gave you the answer to your question.
No, you did
times.
not. So, this is just like Hovind.
Mutations.
Okay. Mutations.
Gene duplication,
How?
horizontal gene transfer, de novo gene origin. Like, I can give you, like, those are mechanisms. You don't have to like that those are mechanisms, but those are mechanisms that we have directly observed. So now that I've answered your question a fourth time, now I want to end this by asking you, since you did still just a virus.
You have not given an example of how.
I gave examples of all of those things. I'm going to ask you this question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. I'm going to ask you the question. This is the topic we'll end on because, we've been going for a while. Are you familiar with the animals that are becoming photosynthetic? Simple question.
No, I've not heard of that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a really fun example because this is a case where you've got animals that eat algae and they steal the plastids, the photosynthetic organelles from their algal food. It's a process called kleptoplasty. Dozens of animals do this, and they use the photosynthetic organelles.
You've got two things created already, and
at least one species of these animals has experienced horizontal gene transfer from the organelle into the nuclear DNA of the animal. So you've got the animal that's expressing genes for photosynthesis, right? So this is a clear case of animals becoming photosynthetic. Now you just said, I bring this up because you just said it's still just a virus. Is a photosynthetic animal a new kind?
No. It has a new feature.
A photosynthetic animal is not a new kind. That doesn't count as a new feature. That's amazing.
Is it a bacteria?
No, I told you it's
what
green algae. It's a green algae that gets eaten by hydra, sea slug. There's a bunch.
Is it still green algae?
No, the green algae has gotten eaten, and it becomes an organelle in the sea slug, which is now photosynthetic. So it's an animal, but it's photosynthetic.
So the sea slug is still the sea slug.
It's now photosynthetic, yes. It is a new type of sea slug.
So it has just a new feature.
Yes, like you've been asking for.
Yeah, so it's never going to change into something else.
So it's your contention, so this is a great place to end it. It's your contention that animals becoming photosynthetic is not macroevolution?
You still have never...
No, just answer that question for me. Is an animal becoming photosynthetic macroevolution?
Where did the genes come from?
Yes or no? It's a simple question.
No.
Amazing. Amazing. So here's what I think we could take away. That's perfect. So an animal becoming a completely different type of organism metabolically is not
just a gene
an example. No, hang on, let me get this out. It's not an example of macro. That's just microevolution. Is an animal becoming photosynthetic. That is perfect because that is exactly where this always ends, where every observed example of evolution is microevolution. And I'm going to end this, and I'll give you a chance. I have one more question for you, and then we can wrap this up.
So there you go. Creationists say no macroevolution, or X just produces X, or still just a virus, or anything of that genre. Here are a bunch of examples you can throw back at them and dare them to say just microevolution. Ideally, they'd, admit they're wrong in the face of direct observations that prove they're wrong, but we all know that won't happen. Creationists aren't going to do that. Fortunately, the next best thing is what they tend to do: deny these changes are macroevolution at all, because that's actually a concession too. Thank you for watching. Before you go, please remember to hit the like button, leave a comment, share this video. If you're not a subscriber to this channel, please subscribe to the channel. And if you want immediate access to my pre-recorded videos, please consider becoming a channel member at any level. Thank you again for watching, and don't get fooled.